The recent release of rare and intimate wedding photographs of John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette has reignited public fascination with one of America's most enduring icons. Shared by journalist and Real Housewives of New York City, alum Carole Radziwill, who was not only a close friend but also family by marriage, the images capture candid, tender moments from the couple's private 1996 ceremony. For many, these never-before-seen photos are more than just nostalgic glimpses into a secretive event. They are windows into a love story that ended far too soon, and into the life of a man whose very name carried both the weight of history and the glow of charisma. John F. Kennedy Jr. lived his entire life in the public eye. Yet these images remind us that behind the celebrity and the mythology was a human being, navigating fame, ambition, and personal dreams in the long shadow of one of America's most famous families. Born on November 25, 1960, in Washington, D.C., John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. entered the world as American royalty. He was the first son of President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, and his birth was celebrated nationwide. Tragically, just shy of his third birthday, he became the nation's most famous child after the assassination of his father on November 22, 1963. The image of little John saluting his father's casket during the funeral procession became one of the most iconic photographs of the 20th century. That moment etched him permanently into the American consciousness, symbolizing both innocence and the deep cost of political life. Growing up, John Jr. was raised in the spotlight, but also under the fiercely protective care of his mother, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, who sought to give him and his sister, Caroline, as normal a childhood as possible. They moved to New York City, where John attended elite private schools, excelling both academically and athletically. Despite the Kennedy family's reputation for politics, John initially gravitated toward the arts. He attended Brown University, where he studied American history and later took acting classes, even appearing in small stage productions. However, his true calling would eventually shift toward law and public service. After earning his law degree from New York University School of Law in 1989, Kennedy briefly worked as an assistant district attorney in Manhattan. It was during these years that the media dubbed him America's most eligible bachelor, a label that followed him relentlessly. His every relationship was scrutinized, his outings photographed, his casual walks through Manhattan turned into tabloid stories. While his good looks, athletic build, and charm made him a magnet for attention, Kennedy often expressed frustration at the way his name overshadowed his professional work. He was determined to carve out his own identity, not merely as the son of a president, but as a man of ideas and influence in his own right. In 1995, Kennedy made a bold career move by founding George Magazine, a glossy political lifestyle publication that aimed to bridge the gap between politics and pop culture. With its tagline, "Not just politics as usual," George sought to make civic life accessible and even fashionable to younger generations. The magazine often featured celebrities on its covers while tackling serious political topics inside. While some critics dismissed it as style over substance, others praised Kennedy for innovating the way politics could be presented. It was a reflection of his personality, blending substance with charm, seriousness with ease. It was around this time that Kennedy met Carolyn Bessette, a publicist for Calvin Klein. Carolyn was strikingly beautiful, but also fiercely private, a quality that both complemented and contrasted John's public life. The two began dating in the mid-1990s, and their relationship quickly became the subject of intense media obsession. In September 1996, they married in a secret ceremony on Cumberland Island, Georgia, with only 35 guests in attendance. The event was so private that the public would only see a few official photos. Until now, with Carole Radziwill's recent release of unseen wedding images, offering a rare glimpse into the couple's joy. These photographs, showing John and Carolyn laughing, embracing, and surrounded by loved ones, remind the world of the deep affection they shared, away from the relentless glare of paparazzi cameras. Yet, despite their deep bond, John and Carolyn's marriage was not immune to the pressures of public life. Friends and colleagues have since spoken about the challenges they faced, from the media's invasive scrutiny to the natural tensions that arise in any relationship. Still, they remained committed to each other, with Carolyn reportedly playing a grounding role in John's often hectic life. By the late 1990s, Kennedy was contemplating his next steps, with speculation swirling that he might one day run for political office. Many believed it was only a matter of time before he followed in his father's footsteps, perhaps starting with a Senate seat from New York. Yet whether or not he was ready for that leap remained a matter of debate, even among his closest confidants. What was clear was that John Kennedy Jr. carried an enormous burden. The constant expectation that he live up to one of the most famous legacies in American history. Tragically, his story came to a sudden and devastating end on July 16, 1999. While piloting his small Piper Saratoga plane to attend a family wedding in Massachusetts, Kennedy, along with Carolyn and her sister Lauren Bessette, died when the aircraft crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near Martha's Vineyard. Investigators concluded that Kennedy likely became disoriented in the hazy nighttime conditions over water. He was just 38 years old. The loss sent shockwaves across the nation and the world, reigniting a deep sense of grief tied to the Kennedy family's long history of tragedy. In the years since his death, John F. Kennedy Jr.'s legacy has been shaped by both his accomplishments and the mythology that surrounds his name. He is remembered not only as the handsome, athletic son of a martyred president, but also as a man who sought to redefine what it meant to be a public figure. Through George Magazine, his advocacy work, and his personal charm, Kennedy bridged worlds, politics and culture, celebrity and service, in ways that still feel relevant today. The release of these rare wedding photographs offers a poignant reminder of the personal side of his life, one that was often overshadowed by the public's fixation on his family name and political potential. In these images, we see not the Prince of Camelot, but a man deeply in love, sharing moments of unguarded happiness with his wife and closest friends. Carole Radziwill's decision to share these photos decades later feels like an act of remembrance, a way to let the world witness John and Carolyn as they were in that moment, untouched by tragedy, wrapped in the glow of their own private joy. For those who grew up watching John F. Kennedy Jr. navigate the challenges of fame and expectation, his life remains a story of both promise and poignancy. He lived with an awareness that his time in the public eye was not fully of his own choosing, yet he used it to champion ideas, foster dialogue, and engage with the world on his own terms. His sudden death left unanswered questions about what he might have achieved had he lived longer, but his charisma, intellect, and humanity continue to inspire. Today, more than 2 decades after his passing, JFK Jr. endures as a figure who encapsulates both the possibilities and the pressures of the American dream. The rare wedding photos now making headlines have reopened a chapter of his story, one filled with love, hope, and the quiet moments that define the man behind the myth. For many, they serve as a reminder that even the most iconic figures are, at their core, people who love, struggle, dream, and leave behind memories that outlast them.